Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to explore how you can use Portainer to create a Kubernetes cluster. Usually, you will create your Kubernetes cluster using the terminal, either through using Terraform or running the code directly on the terminal or using different forms. But you will all agree with me that when you run the commands to create this cluster, it feels so abstract because sometimes you run into errors. There's this suspense that you don't even know what is going to come out of those commands that you are running. But with Portainer, it gives you that feel, that graphical feel, where you can technically see what you are creating or what you are dealing with. You have the privilege or the capability to create your volumes, create your pods, create your namespaces using graphical interface. So in this video, if you look with what we have on the screen, we have the existing local Portainer container that is running. So for us to create a Kubernetes cluster, even though the cluster is going to be created by Portainer, it's going to be created and managed by Portainer, but it's going to be an independent environment on its own. So the Kubernetes cluster is going to be a separate environment. And for us to create the cluster, we are going to decide what type of cluster do we want to, what type of results, what type of environment do we want to use. Are we going to be creating this cluster locally? Are we going to be creating it in the cloud? But in this case, or in this video, we are going to be creating Kubernetes cluster in Azure. So basically, we're going to be using container to create Azure Kubernetes service or Azure Kubernetes cluster, AKS. Now, let's go ahead and see how that is done. So like I said, if you click on environment, we already have the local environment, which is the Portainer that is running. And what we're going to do now is we're going to head over to the top right here. We're going to click on Add Environment. And that will take you to this page that shows you all the environment that you can add. So if you look at it, you have about 2 or 3 environments here. The first one here, it's a case where you have your standalone Kubernetes that you have created and you want to use Portainer to integrate or to connect to it, where you're going to be using the URL, the IP, and the necessary credentials. Why the next one here is provisioning a KaaS cluster. KaaS is Kubernetes as a service. And this is the type of service that is being provided by the cloud providers, your GCP, your Azure, your AWS. They render Kubernetes as a service. And that is what we are going to be doing in this video. And for us to create a KaaS cluster, we will need to communicate between our Portainer and the cloud provider that we intend to use, in this case, Azure. So the first thing is we will need to establish a communication between Portainer platform and the Azure platform. We are also going to look at those of AWS and Google in our subsequent videos. So if you go ahead now and you click on the KaaS, I will select it, and just below it, I will click on Start Wizard. Now, when you click on Start Wizard, then it's going to show you those cloud providers that are supported. In this case, we are going to be going for Microsoft Azure. Now, and right away, I'm being directed to where I can set up my Kubernetes cluster. But this is not the case. This is not always the case. This is possible because I have previously configured my credential. I've previously configured an Azure credential to communicate between Portainer and Azure. So for us to have the feel of that, it should go straight down here into the settings. Because if you look right here, look at what here we have credentials. Just right here, we have credentials, and you have Azure credentials. Those are the credentials that I have provided previously. And how can we see that? If you go into settings and you click on share credential, you will see here that I've provided these Azure credentials. And what are those credentials that have been provided? If I click on it, you can see I have subscription ID, which is the subscription of my Azure portal. I have the tenant ID, the client ID, and the client secret. How do we get this credential? We are going to go into that. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to remove this credential, and we are going to go back to set up the cars to see what it looks like. So I will click on this, and I'm going to remove this credential. So now there's no more credential. So if I go back to home, and I go back to environment, and I add environment, and I select cache, and I click on start wizard, and I select Microsoft Azure, you can see now it's asking me for all of these credentials. Previously, it wasn't asking because I have configured it before that time. So now, how do we get this credential? We are going to get this credential using what we call service principle, or creating an application and getting the credential of that application. That application will act as a middleman. That application will act as a bridge between your Portainer portal and your Azure portal. How do we get this credential? We are going to head over to our Azure portal, and we are going to create this application, and we are going to get the credential and bring it over. Now let's head over to our Azure portal. Now this is my Azure portal. I'm going to zoom in a little bit for you to see. So this is my Azure portal. Now, what are those things that are needed? If I go back here, so I'm going to be flipping from between Azure portal and Portainer portal for us to get it. So we need the subscription ID. So I'll go back to my Azure, and the first thing I will type is subscription. It's already on the screen here. If you don't have it, you can just type it, subscription, and you're going to select it. And there's a subscription ID here. We're going to need that. So I can copy that first. I will copy my subscription ID, and I'm going to keep it. So let me open a sticky note here, and I'm going to say sub ID, subscription ID, and I'm going to paste this here. Then we'll head over. Now we are going to go over and create our application. So I will go to the top menu, top left. I will click on the hamburger sign, and I'm going to head over to Microsoft Entra ID. This is used to be called Microsoft Active Directory, but it has been updated, and the new name now is Microsoft Entra ID. So I'll click on it, and then I will click on App Registration. So if I click on App Registration, and if you look right up here, I'm going to click on New Registration. I'm going to give it a name. What name can I give to it? I can give it, since I want to use this as my connection between Portainer and Azure. So I'm going to call it Portainer Azure App. I'll call it Portainer Azure App. I'm going to leave the credential. I'm going to leave the configuration as it is, and I'm going to click on register. So I'm going to click on register. So the app is registered now. And after that, I'm going to head over. So if you go now, if you look at it, when app is registered, we have some information. Let me try to zoom out a little bit, and you're going to see. Now we have some information here. So we're going to take note of this information. So we need, if I go back to my Portainer, we have gotten subscription ID. Now we need tenant ID, and we need client ID and client secret. So let's go back to our Azure and look for our tenant ID. And if you look at it here, you have directory or tenant ID. You can see the tenant in brackets. So I'm going to copy that. and I'm going to take it to my sticky note. I will call that one tenant ID. Okay, tenant ID. I'm going to paste it. And the other one here is, if I go back to my Portainer product, the other one is client ID. I'll come back here and you can see it here. Client ID is right here. So I'll copy it and I'll put it here again. Client ID. We're going to be using all of them later. Client ID, I paste it. And what do we have left? We need what? Client secret. Now, if you look at the information provided here, there's no client secret anywhere. If you look at everywhere, there's no client secret. How do we get client secret? Then you go to head over to certificate and secret on the left hand here. So we're going to click on certificate and secret, and you are going to click on new client secret. So it's going to ask you on the right top here, what is the description? This description is for my Portainer secret. Okay, that is it. And it's asking for what is the expiring date, what is the duration. I'm just going to give it a very short one, 3 months. And I'm going to click on what? Add. And of course, the Portainer secret the application secret has been created. And this is the secret here. You do not need the secret ID. All you need is just the value. So I'm going to copy the value and I'm going to take it to my sticky note. And that is my secret. Let us see what it is called. Client secret. That is my client secret. So I'm going to put it here. Secret. So I've pasted that. So we have all the information now. We can now go back to our Portainer and we can provide those information. So the first thing here is I will copy my subscription ID. I copy that. I move out to my Portainer. And the first one is a credential name. What name do you want to give to it? I want to give it Azure Authentication. Okay. I want to call it Azure Authentication. And my subscription ID, I'm going to paste it. I'll go back and copy tenant ID. I will copy that. Tenant ID. Make sure you did not copy any space along with it. Tenant ID is right here. I just put that. Tenant ID. Make sure there's no space in between it. And this is my client ID. Okay. Client ID. I'll copy it. Come back to client ID. Make sure there's no space in front of it. And finally, I'll copy the secret ID. The secret ID is also here. I'll copy it. The best is to copy it directly from there so that you don't avoid any mistake of copying things. Now that everything is done, we're going to click on Add Credential. And if you look at the right top here, it's what? No, it failed. So there's a problem. It says the group leads failure responding to original service. Let us see, maybe there is a problem with our credential. I don't know, maybe we didn't put it very well. Let me go back there. It's still there, but let us see. Azure, as long as there's no space behind it. Okay, let me click. So everything seems to be fine. I will just copy the, let me go here and copy the secret. Put it again, and I'll update it. Let us see. Maybe it's going to succeed. Okay, that is it now. So we have the credential set. Now that you have put the credential, you go back to environment. Now we can add our environment. So add environment, and I'm going to click on cache, and I'll click on start wizard. So you can see now that if I now select Microsoft Azure, it has automatically, I think there's a problem. It has automatically let us see, it has automatically select the Azure authentication. I'm not sure why it's pushing that error, but let us see. So I'm going to go ahead now. I want to set up my Kubernetes cluster. And the first thing they need is what? The name of my cluster. This has to be in lowercase. So I'm going to call it Kubernetes. I'm going to call it Kubernetes cluster. Kubernetes cluster. Okay. And I'm going to the name is already there. And I'm going to move ahead. There's a problem here. So provision environment is not showing. So I don't know. Okay, it says name must contain. Oh, thank you. Look at it. The first letter here is K, is in capital. So I'm going to remove it and turn it to lowercase. So everything is in lowercase now, but still it's not showing, not giving us the opportunity to reload it. There's an error here. Let me see what the error is. So there's an error coming up here. So let's try to understand what this error is all about. So I'm going to click on this again. Let's see if that error comes up. Okay, let's see. It says original service as up of. Oh, I see. If you look at it here, authorization does not have the authorization to perform the action. Oh, I see. Oh, so I've skipped the point. So the app service that we created must be granted the application to be able to create Kubernetes cluster in Azure. So that is where the problem is. So when I was creating the app service, I failed to add the appropriate permission to allow the app service to be able to create Kubernetes cluster in Azure. So I'm going to head over to my Azure and I'm going to add that now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click over here and resource group. I'm going to look for resource group and I'm going to select any of the resource group where I want the app to, to reside. So we are going to add the permission to the resource group. Then the permission, the app will be able to inherit the permission from the resource group. So I'm going to select this resource group and I'm going to go to access control and I am role. And I'm going to go to hard role assignment. After that, I'm going to look for contributor role. I'm going to look for contributor role. Let me see this. Okay, this is contributor role. I'm going to select it. I'm going to click on next and I'm going to click on select member. In the select member, I'm going to look for the application that I just created. The name of the application is Portainer Azure App, and I'm going to select Add. And I'm going to click on Review and Assign, then Review and Assign again. So this now shows that the permission has been granted to the what? To the application. So I'm going to head up to my Portainer now. I'm going to add the name. What is the name of my cluster? I want to call the name Kubernetes cluster. This is what I want to use. You can see now it has given me the opportunity to fill in other information. So the region is going to be East US, and this is the resource group. What is the pool? I'll just use pool 1. That is fine. This is the operating system, and I'm going to have in 3 nodes. If you like, you can adjust it to 1 or 2, as the case may be. Availability zone, I just want it in 1 availability zone for now. And this is the availability, API availability. How often do you want it to be available? That is fine. This one, cluster 1, I can leave it as cluster 1, and I'll go ahead and click on provision environment. Now you can see up here it says CAS cluster provisioning started. Now you can see if you go back to your environment now, you will see that it's what? Waiting for cloud provider. So this is going to take a couple of minutes. So I'm going to pause the video, and when it is completed, we'll come back and explore what it is. So if you look at it now, it's saying creating KAS cluster. You can see it here. Creating KAS cluster. So this is going to take a couple of minutes. We'll come back and see what we have. So welcome back. So after about 8 minutes, our Kubernetes cluster is now up and running, and it's running on port 9001. So if you head back to your home now, you're going to see you're going to see a new environment has been added, which is what? Kubernetes cluster. Yeah, just don't mind the one that is over here, 10 days remaining. At the beginning of this series, I told you about the Portainer Business Edition. If you look over here, that is the one I'm using, Business Edition. You are given 3 licenses You should click here now, and I go to license. Where is that? I don't know where I got it. There's somewhere called license. So that will show you you're only given 3 licenses to use for when you use anything more than 3 licenses, you will be asked to pay for that. So that is what is telling me here, that I've already exhausted my license. You can see it's asking me to renew that, so just neglect that. That is not part of the problem. Now we have a Kubernetes cluster that is now up and running. You can see it's up here. So if I click on it here, you can see it has 11 application running. It has namespace, it has 5 services, 13 config map, secret. And if you look at the left-hand corner here, let me quickly zoom out a little bit. So we have how you can communicate with your Kubernetes cluster. We have the dashboard, which we are seeing presently. We have the custom template. There's no custom template. We have namespace. Now we have only one namespace, the default namespace. We can go ahead and add more namespace. You can add namespace either by filling up the form, or you can upload a code to do it, or you can also do it through a command line. So let's assume I want to add a namespace now. I'll come here and say add with form, create from code if you have a code. So I'll first add with form. I'll add a namespace. And what is the namespace? Let me call it dev stage. I'll just call it dev stage. And if you want to add any annotation, you can do that. Resource requirement, that is up to you. You can restrict it if you want. I don't want any. If you want to restrict it to those registry that we added the other time, you only want the access, what you want a particular namespace to have a particular access. You can select it if you want. You can leave it out, and you can just click on create namespace. And you can see now this what a dev namespace has been created. If you don't want to use adding form, you can create a code. You can come here, hit on it, hit on web edition, and you can type a code here. You can remember if you know how to write a config file. Let me quickly write one. API version v1. I'll write that, and then the next thing will be kind. What's the kind? Namespace. Namespace is the kind name space. And the next thing that will follow is metadata. Sorry, this will be colon. And the next thing will be what? Metadata, colon. And under metadata, we can have, what namespace do I want to give? This will be that namespace. Let's give it staging. Let's give it staging name. I think we should be fine. Sorry, I'm missing something in name. Staging. We should be fine. So just click on deploy. Let's see. And you can see now staging has been formed. So you can add it through form, you can add it through code, and also you can add it through the command line. We're going to see that in the seconds. So these are the application. We don't have anyone. This is networking ingress that has not been created. Config map. You can see these are the config map. These are the certificate. So in fact, Portainer is doing a lot of stuff for you. It has added the certificate for you, which we use for what? For authentication. We have volume, we have cluster, and all that. So these are the 3 clusters that we have. Now, another good thing here is that, when you set up a Kubernetes cluster, you will need to set the kubeconfig. The kubeconfig is the credential that allow your Kubernetes to interact. Sorry, that allow kubectl to interact with what? With the cluster. But in this case, Portainer has managed everything for you, and you don't need to set it. So if you look at right up here, we have kubectl shell. If you click on kubectl shell, it will take you to what? To your kubectl terminal, where you can, if you choose to interact with your Kubernetes cluster through the terminal, then you can get it here. So let's just wait a second for this terminal to come up, and I'm going to use that terminal to create another namespace. Okay, see my coming up. Let's see. I hope it comes up in time. So while we wait for it, those are the things we see here. We just allow it to run. So what other thing can we look at? So we have the Kubernetes cluster on it. Now, if we go to Azure platform and we search for Kubernetes, you're going to see, you can see this our Kubernetes cluster, which has been created. If I zoom out a little bit, you can see now our Kubernetes cluster that has been created on the Portainer folder is right here. And if you click on it, you're going to have exact same information that you have in your cluster. So you can have the pool, you can have some other information that you want to check, the monitoring. This is where you're going to get the pod running, total pod, the pod run is 24. If you go back there and you count it, you're going to have the same thing. So this is how you can use Portainer to, I don't know why this kubectl is not coming up. There might be some problem somewhere. But if this kubectl comes up, because it comes up earlier, you can use it to interact with your container. But whatever you are going to do, you can equally do them on the, okay, now it's up. So let's see, kubectl, I'm going to clear the screen now, and I'm going to create a namespace. I'll just say kubectl create namespace, and I'll call it production. So if I go back to my namespace now, you find out that production prod has been what? Has been created. So you can equally interact with it. So I'm going to go back to the terminal, and you can get so many things. You can get kubectl, get all -o wide. It's going to give us all the information, the service, cluster IP, and all that. So this is how you can use your Kubernetes, your Portainer, to easily create and manage your Kubernetes cluster. Now, in this video, what we did is to create Kubernetes cluster on Azure. In the next video, we're going to look at how to create a Kubernetes cluster using Google platform, GCP, and we're also going to look at the AWS platform, which is AKS, Elastic Kubernetes Service, while on Google, we're going to. Now, one thing that I see as a downside is now that you are using your Portainer to create the Kubernetes cluster and it's on Azure. If you come here now and you remove your Portainer, if you remove the Kubernetes cluster from Portainer, it's not going to remove it in the back end. Unlike when you use something like Terraform to create it, and when you do Terraform destroy, it's going to destroy the resources in the backend. In this case, if you go ahead and remove your cluster, let's assume we come here now, go to environment, and we remove our Kubernetes cluster. Let's assume I go to environment, I click on environment, I come here, and I remove my cluster. If you go back to Azure, you can see it. Your cluster is still there. It's not going to go away. So if you need to delete your cluster, you have to come here and delete it by itself. So that is something that I felt is a downside, and they should be able to do something about it. So I'm going to click on this one. I'm going to delete it. Make sure you delete Kubernetes cluster. It is very pricey and could cost you a lot. Make sure you do the cleanup. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, please kindly click on like and make comment and subscribe to this YouTube channel. I will see you in the next video where we're going to be looking at how to use Portainer to create Kubernetes cluster on AWS and Google platform. Thank you and peace.